The night was cold. The forest was silent. The human soldier named Daniel sat inside his small tent far from home, far from Earth, and he listened to the strange sounds of this alien world. The crackle of his small fire, the whisper of the wind that passed through tall silver trees, the hum of insects that glowed like stars in the grass. Everything felt strange, everything felt alive, and yet he was alone. Daniel had been ordered to patrol the area, his unit camped nearby. But he chose to set his tent a little apart, close enough to hear the voices of other soldiers, but far enough to feel the weight of the alien night pressing on him. He wanted quiet, he wanted to think, and yet he felt uneasy, as if the forest was watching him. His hand rested near his rifle, his eyes moved to every shadow, every flicker of light. He was trained for battle. But this place felt different, not like a battlefield, more like a test, as if the world itself wanted to know if he belonged here. And deep down he wondered if he truly did. The fire burned low. His eyes grew heavy, when suddenly a sound came, soft and quick, not the sound of wind, not the sound of an animal. It was the sound of fabric moving. The flap of his tent shifted and his heart raced. He gripped his weapon, ready for anything, ready for danger. But what he saw was not what he expected. It was not a soldier, not an enemy, not a beast from the forest. It was a girl, an alien girl. She slipped quietly inside his tent, her movements light, her body almost glowing in the dim firelight, her eyes large and strange, reflecting silver like the trees outside. Her skin carried a faint shimmer, as if painted with starlight. Daniel froze, his finger tense on the trigger. But she raised a hand, calm and slow, her voice soft, almost a whisper. "Do not fear, human. It is tradition among my people," she said, her accent heavy, her words broken but clear enough to understand tradition. The word struck him. What kind of tradition was this, slipping into a soldier's tent at night, in the middle of an alien forest? What game was she playing? Was this a trick? A trap? Was he already surrounded by her people? "Who are you?" Daniel asked, his voice low, firm, though his chest beat like a drum. "Why are you here?" She tilted her head, her silver eyes never leaving his. "My name is Lyra. I come because it is our way. The way of trust, the way of courage," she said, her words flowing like a song yet filled with something heavy, something serious. Daniel did not lower his weapon. He studied her, the way she sat cross-legged on the floor of his tent, unafraid, as if she belonged there, as if she had done this many times before. But he knew this could not be normal. Humans were new here, only weeks on this world. How could such a tradition exist with them? "You should leave," Daniel said, his voice harder now, but his hand shook slightly. "If the others see you, they will think you are a spy. They will shoot." She smiled faintly. But it was not the smile of a trickster. It was sad, almost tired. "Then let them shoot, but I will not leave. Because once I enter, I stay until the choice is made." "The choice," Daniel whispered. Confused, what choice? She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper, her silver eyes glowing like cold fire. "The choice between fear and trust, between enemy and friend, between the path of war and the path of peace. That is why I am here. That is the tradition of my people." Daniel felt the weight of her words. Heavy as stone and yet light as mist, it made no sense. But something deep inside him knew she was not lying. Not in that moment. Her voice carried truth. Even if the meaning was hidden outside. A branch snapped. Footsteps moved near the camp. Daniel tensed. Lyra's eyes darted to the sound, her body stiff. "Your people are close," she whispered. "If they find me here, all will be broken." Daniel's mind raced. If he hid her, he would be breaking orders, risking his life, risking his unit. But if he sent her away, if she was caught, blood could spill. War could grow hotter, faster, maybe beyond control. He did not know what was right. He only knew that in this moment, the fate of more than himself rested in his tent. "Stay quiet," he finally said, his voice sharp but quiet, and he pulled the blanket covering her small figure, his rifle aimed at the flap of the tent, his heart pounding. The footsteps grew closer. Soldiers' voices called in the night, checking, searching, unaware of the alien girl hiding just inches away. The voices faded. The danger passed. Daniel let out a breath he did not know he was holding. Lyra pulled the blanket down, her silver eyes staring into his. "Now," she whispered, "you are part of this." "There is no turning back." Daniel stared at her, his mind full of questions, his body full of tension. He wanted to speak, to demand answers, but all he could do was stare, because in her eyes, he saw something he did not expect. Not hatred, not fear, but hope, a fragile hope. Shining in the darkness, the fire flickered low, The night pressed heavier, and in that small tent, on an alien world, a story began, one that would change everything. The night was still heavy, the fire outside his tent almost gone. Daniel sat with his rifle across his lap, his eyes locked on the alien girl who had slipped into his world like a shadow. Her name was Lyra, her presence was a mystery, and her words about tradition still echoed in his mind. Louder than the forest, louder than his own fear, Lyra sat cross-legged, calm as if the tent was hers, as if danger outside did not matter. She looked at him with silver eyes that caught even the faintest light, her voice soft but steady. Among my people, when the night is deep and the war is near, we choose a warrior. We enter his shelter, we sit until dawn. It is our way to test his soul. Daniel frowned, his grip on the rifle tighter. Test my soul? Why, I'm just a soldier. I follow orders, I fight if I must, I don't play games. Her gaze sharpened, not angry but piercing. You think this is a game, human? No, it is older than your wars, older than your people on this planet. We do this because we must know if there can be trust, if there can be peace, if there can be something greater. Her words unsettled him, not because they sounded false, but because they carried weight like stones dropped into water, spreading ripples that reached far. He wanted to dismiss it, to laugh it off, but he could not. Something in her tone, something in her eyes, told him this was no trick. You said it's tradition, Daniel said slowly. But why me? Why tonight? There are others in my unit. Why not them? Her lips curved, not into a smile, but into something closer to sorrow. Because you were chosen, because you sleep apart. Because you listen when others do not. Because you doubt your own orders, I saw it. I knew you were the one. Daniel felt heat rise in his chest, frustration mixed with unease. You've been watching me, he said, his voice sharp. How long? Why? Long enough, she answered simply, her hands resting on her knees. Long enough to see you are not like the others. You are not blind, you are not deaf. You feel the weight of this place, you feel the truth of it. And that is why I am here. Daniel's thoughts churned. Soldiers outside laughed faintly. Their voices carried through the camp. They had no idea what was happening inside his tent. No idea that an alien sat across from him speaking of trust and destiny. And for a moment he wondered if he himself had lost his mind. Maybe this was a dream. Maybe the forest had poisoned him. But Lyra's presence was too sharp, too real. The faint shimmer on her skin, the steady rhythm of her breath, the way her eyes locked on him and refused to waver. She was no dream, she was flesh and blood, and her words were threads pulling him toward something larger. You speak of peace, Daniel said at last. But your people kill us, ambush us. Every day we bury someone, every day blood runs, and you expect me to believe you come here in peace. Her voice lowered, heavy with pain. Not all my people want war. Human, some do, yes. Some fear you, some hate you. But others, like me, we hope for something else. Yet our voices are small, our hands are weak. We cannot stop the fire alone, so we seek you, to see if any of you carry light instead of flame. The silence stretched. Daniel's chest tight, his weapon still close, but his anger softening against the calm in her words. He thought of his fallen comrades, of missions that led only to graves. He thought of his own doubts, the questions he never spoke, the feeling that orders were not always right. And for the first time he wondered if maybe she saw something in him he could not admit. Outside, footsteps crunched against the dirt, closer, heavier. Daniel tensed, Lyra's body stiffened, her eyes darting to the tent flap. Shadows moved. Soldiers patrolling, their voices sharper now, suspicion in their tone. Daniel felt his breath catch. If they opened the flap, if they saw her, everything would end in blood. Hide, he whispered, his voice urgent. Quick! But Lyra shook her head slowly. If I hide, the tradition is broken. If they see me, the blood will flow. You must choose, Daniel. You must choose what I mean to you, enemy or guest. Danger or hope. The flap trembled, a hand brushing against it from outside. Daniel's heart pounded like thunder. Sweat ran down his back, and for a moment the world seemed to hold its breath. Soldiers called out, You hear something inside? Thought I heard voices. Daniel pressed his hand against the tent, steady. His voice calm, though his heart was chaos. Just me talking to myself, long night, nothing here, he said. His tone strong enough to carry, but not loud enough to betray the truth. The soldiers muttered. One laughed. Then their footsteps moved away. Fading into the forest, the danger passed again. Silence returned, but heavier now, like chains around them. Lyra's eyes softened. She leaned forward, her voice barely above a breath. Now you have chosen, human, you did not betray me. You covered me, now you are bound. My path and yours are tied together until the end. Daniel exhaled, his hand trembling, his mind storming. I don't even know what I've agreed to, he said. But inside he knew it was true. He had made a choice whether he liked it or not, and as the night stretched on, as the fire burned to ash, Daniel realized his life had already begun to change. Because of a girl who slipped into his tent and spoke of tradition, and forced him to choose between fear and trust. The forest was quiet again. The soldiers had passed, their boots fading into the distance. Daniel sat frozen, his hands tight around the rifle. His breath heavy, and in front of him, the alien girl Lyra still sat cross-legged, calm as if nothing had happened, though her silver eyes watched him with a weight he could not ignore. The small tent felt smaller now, like the walls were closing in, the air thick with unspoken words. Daniel wanted to demand answers, to push her out, but a part of him already knew he wouldn't, because twice now he had chosen to let her stay, and twice he had stepped further into something he did not understand. You should not have covered me, Lyra said softly, her voice low, steady. Now you are marked. Now you carry the bond of my people, Daniel frowned, his jaw tight. Bond? What bond? I didn't agree to anything. I just didn't want a firefight in my tent, that's all. Her head tilted slightly, her silver eyes reflecting the faint glow of the dying fire outside. Words do not matter, actions matter. You acted, you chose. The bond is sealed. Daniel shook his head, frustration mixing with unease. This is insane. You sneak into my tent. You talk about traditions and bonds. You're playing with me. You're trying to make me believe some story while your people attack us out there. Her expression did not change, calm but sharp. If I wished for you to die, you would be dead, human. You know this. My people are near. They watch, but I am here. Not to kill you, not to betray you, but to see if you are different. He studied her. The shimmer of her skin, the way she did not flinch at his harsh tone, the way she seemed certain of her own strange purpose. And against his will, a question slipped from his lips. Different how she leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. Different from the others, the ones who burn forests, who shoot first, who do not listen. I watch them. They fear everything. They hate everything. But you, Daniel, you are apart. You doubt. You question. You wonder. And that is why you matter. The words struck deeper than he expected. Because she was right, he did doubt, he did question. He did wonder if humanity's presence here was just conquest painted as survival. He had buried friends. He had seen villages turn to ash, and he carried the weight of wondering if it was all worth it. You've been watching me, he muttered again, his voice heavy. How long? Since the first fire you built alone, she answered. Since the first night you sat apart from the others. Since I saw you stare at the stars with silence in your heart. I knew then you would hear me even if you did not want to. Daniel felt his chest tighten, her words cutting close, too close. He wanted to deny them, to push her away, but before he could, another sound came. Sharp, sudden footsteps again, closer, heavier, not like patrols this time, more urgent, more dangerous. Daniel froze, listening. Outside voices barked, angry, not human voices, alien voices, deep and harsh. His heart pounded. He looked at Lyra. Her expression hardened, her silver eyes sharp. They come, she whispered, not my friends, not my kin. Hunters. Daniel gripped his rifle, his muscles tense. Hunters. For me. For both of us, she said. They know I broke tradition. They know I entered your shelter. They come to end it. They come to kill us before dawn. The words hit him like ice. Soldiers were nearby, yes, but the forest was wide, the night deep, and if hostile aliens attacked now, no one would reach his tent in time. He would be dead before help came unless she was telling the truth, unless she really knew what was coming. Why tell me this, he asked quickly. If you wanted me dead, you wouldn't warn me. Why help me? Her voice trembled for the first time, just slightly. Because if you die now, then all of this dies, the bond, the hope, the chance for peace. I broke my own law to be here. Daniel, I risked my blood. I risked my name, and if you fall tonight, it means nothing. It means I betrayed everything for nothing. The voices outside grew louder, closer, weapons clattering. Daniel could feel the vibration through the ground. He raised his rifle, ready, his finger near the trigger. But Lyra placed her hand gently on the barrel, pushing it down, her touch light but firm. No, she whispered. You cannot fight them with bullets, not here. Not now. Daniel's eyes burned into hers, his breath sharp. Then how her silver gaze locked with his, glowing like cold fire. Trust me, follow me, or die in this tent. Those are your choices, human. The flap shook. Shadows passed outside, alien voices hissing. The hunters were only seconds away. Daniel's body screamed to fight, to shoot, to defend, but his mind, his heart, pulled toward her words, her calm, her certainty, her strange bond, his rifle lowered, his chest burning with the weight of his choice. Fine, he whispered. Lead me. Lyra's lips pressed into a thin line. Relief flickered in her eyes. She crawled to the back of the tent, pulled at the fabric, and revealed a slit he had never noticed. Cut clean, hidden in shadow. This way, she said, quiet. Fast. The voices outside swelled, boots crushing earth, weapons raised. Daniel slipped after her into the night. Into the forest, leaving the tent, leaving safety, leaving certainty behind, his heart pounding, his mind racing. Because in that moment he was no longer just a soldier. He was something else, something bound, something hunted. And as the cold night wrapped around them, as silver trees whispered above, Daniel realized he had stepped deeper into a story he could not escape. A story that began with a girl who slipped into his tent, and now pulled him into the shadows of her dangerous world. The forest swallowed them whole, the silver trees towering above, their long branches glowing faintly like veins of light. Daniel followed Lyra through the darkness, his boots silent on the soft earth, his rifle clutched tight, his eyes darting to every shadow, every whisper, every flicker of movement. Behind them the hunters moved, their deep voices echoing through the night. Closer, closer, Lyra moved like water, her body flowing between trees, her steps light, her head turning often, listening to sounds Daniel could barely hear. She glanced back at him, her silver eyes bright. Do not fall behind, human. They track by sound, by heat if you stumble. We both die, Daniel gritted his teeth, pushing forward, his body trained for endurance. But this was no drill, this was survival. His heart pounded with each step, his mind racing with questions. How had he ended up here, following an alien girl through a hostile forest, hunted by enemies he had never seen before? And yet deep down he knew there was no going back. The moment he let her hide in his tent, his path had changed forever. The hunters' voices grew sharper, their language guttural and harsh. Daniel could not understand the words, but he understood the meaning. They were close, they were eager, they wanted blood, his blood, Lyra's blood, maybe both. They reached a slope, roots twisting like snakes down the hill. Daniel slipped, his hand grabbing a branch. Dirt sliding under his boots, a sound cracked loud in the night. Too loud, he cursed under his breath. Lyra froze, her eyes wide, she pressed a finger to her lips. Silence. The forest answered with a howl, long and sharp. Not from an animal, but from the hunters they had heard. They had found the trail. Daniel's chest tightened. He raised his rifle, ready, but Lyra shook her head violently, her hand grabbing his arm, pulling him. No gun, not yet, follow. They ran, faster now, branches whipping against Daniel's face, the glow of insects scattering around them, the howls behind turning into pounding footsteps, heavy, strong. The hunters closing in. His lungs burned, sweat ran down his back. Every instinct screamed to stop, to turn, to fight. But Lyra dragged him deeper, deeper, until the forest seemed to swallow even the sound of pursuit. Finally she stopped. Her hand raised, her body pressed low against the ground. Daniel crouched beside her, his rifle steady, his eyes searching the trees. Why stop? They're right behind us, he hissed. Lyra's voice was calm, almost too calm. Because running will not save us. Because this place will hide us if you trust me. The forest was quiet again, too quiet. Daniel leaned against the glowing stone, his chest still heavy from the chase, his mind a storm of questions. Lyra knelt nearby, her hand resting on the earth, her breath slow but steady, her silver eyes watching him, calm yet filled with something deeper, something heavier. You see now, she said softly, her voice carrying in the silence. The forest does not lie. The old ones still live in the bones of this world. They watched you, they judged you, and they hid you, because they saw something in you, human. Daniel shook his head, his voice sharp. Don't say it like that. I didn't ask for this, I didn't want any bond. I didn't want any judgment, I just wanted to survive this damn patrol. Lyra's gaze did not waver. Want or not, it is already done. You were chosen, and the hunters will not stop. My people will not stop. And soon your people will turn on you too, unless you face what is coming. Her words hit him harder than he expected. The idea of being hunted from all sides, alien and human alike, unsettled him more than the chase itself. But before he could answer, she rose to her feet, her body straight, her eyes sharp. The bond is not complete, Daniel, to carry it. You must pass the trial. Daniel stood, his rifle still tight in his hands. Trial? What trial? I'm not one of you. I don't care about your traditions, I just want to make it back to camp alive. Lyra's voice grew harder, her tone almost cutting. If you walk back now, the hunters will find you. The forest will turn, and your own soldiers will see you as a traitor. There is no path backward, only forward. And forward is fire. The words hung heavy in the night. Daniel clenched his jaw, his chest burning with frustration. But he saw in her eyes there was no trick, no jest. She truly believed what she said, and deep down he felt it too, the weight of something bigger than himself, pressing on him like the sky itself. Where is this trial? He asked finally, his voice low, resigned. She turned, her silver hair catching the faint light. Follow me, she said, and without another word, she led him deeper into the forest. The trees grew denser, their silver glow brighter, until the forest opened into a wide circle. The ground blackened, the air heavy with heat. In the center, a ring of stones burned with fire that did not consume, flames of blue and red twisting upward, silent, eternal. Daniel felt the heat before he even stepped close, his body tense, his instincts screaming danger. This is it, Lyra whispered, her voice reverent. The trial of fire, the place where warriors prove their truth, where the old ones judge if you are worthy. No blade, no gun. Only your heart will decide. Daniel frowned, his rifle clutched tighter. And if I refuse, then the fire will burn you anyway, she said calmly, because now you stand in its circle, and the circle does not let you go until the choice is made. He looked around, the flames twisting higher, shadows dancing on the stones, the air thick with something more than heat, something alive, watching, waiting. He swallowed hard, sweat dripping down his neck, his pulse loud in his ears. What do I do? Lyra stepped back, her silver eyes on him. Step inside the fire, Daniel. Face what it shows you, face yourself. His body resisted, every muscle screaming no, but the circle pulled at him, his boots heavy, yet moving one step then another, until he stood before the flames, heat biting his skin, light blinding his eyes. He raised a hand to shield himself, and then, without warning, the fire reached for him, wrapping around him, swallowing him whole. Daniel gasped, his rifle falling from his grip. The fire burned, but not like fire, not pain, not flesh, but memory, vision. He saw faces, friends fallen in battle, comrades buried under alien soil. He heard voices of commanders barking orders, orders that led to graves. He saw his own reflection, his hands bloody, his eyes hollow. A soldier who followed, but never chose, do you see? A voice whispered. Not Lyra's, not human, deeper, older. You are more than soldier, but only if you choose to be. The fire twisted again, showing more alien villages destroyed, children running, smoke choking the sky. He saw himself there, rifle raised, pulling a trigger he did not want to pull, and then he saw another path sparing, choosing mercy instead of killing, and the fire dimmed, softer, calmer, as if approving. Daniel fell to his knees, his chest heaving, sweat pouring, the fire still around him, but no longer burning, now warm, now steady, a weight on his shoulders, but a weight he could bear. The voice spoke again. Strength is easy, mercy is harder, but only mercy can break fear. And then the fire released him, fading back to blue and red, silent once more. Daniel collapsed onto the ground outside the circle, his breath ragged, his body shaking. Lyra rushed to his side, her hand on his shoulder, her silver eyes wide. You lived, she whispered. You passed. Daniel looked up at her, his voice hoarse. What the hell was that? She helped him sit, her gaze steady. The trial showed you. It showed what you carry. It showed what you can be. And it chose you, Daniel. It chose you as the warrior of mercy. He laughed bitterly, shaking his head. Mercy in a war, that's a good way to get killed. But Lyra's hand squeezed his arm, her voice fierce. No, that is the only way to end it. And now they know, the hunters, my people. Even your own, they will all know, because the fire never lies. Daniel looked at the flame still twisting in the circle, and for the first time he felt something heavier than fear, heavier than duty. He felt destiny pressing on him, binding him. A path he could not escape. A path born not of bullets, but of choices. And somewhere in the distance a howl rose, the hunters calling again. But this time it sounded different, not victory, not hunger, but fear. The fire circle still glowed behind him, soft blue flames twisting in silence. Daniel sat on the blackened ground, his chest heavy, his mind shaking from what he had seen. Lyra knelt beside him, her silver eyes never leaving his face, calm yet urgent. "Now the bond is complete," she whispered. "You carry the mark, you carry the choice. But the hardest part has not yet come." Daniel wiped sweat from his brow, his voice hoarse. "What could be harder than walking through fire, seeing my own sins burn in front of me?" Lyra's expression hardened, her hand tightening on his arm. "Facing your own people, human. They will not understand what you carry. They will not see mercy as strength. They will see only betrayal." Before Daniel could reply, the forest shook with a sound he knew too well. Human voices, human boots, sharp and disciplined. Soldiers pushing through the trees, flashlights cutting across silver trunks. Orders shouted, rifles ready, his unit, his own comrades. They had tracked him. They had found him, Daniel, a voice called. Harsh, angry, the voice of his commander. "Captain Rourke, step out now, hands where I can see them." "Don't make this harder than it already is." Daniel's chest tightened. His rifle lay at the ground by the fire circle, his body weak from the trial, and beside him Lyra rose to her feet. Her silver form bright in the torchlight. The soldiers froze when they saw her. Shouts rose instantly. "Contact, alien! Take aim!" "No!" Daniel shouted, his voice breaking, his body throwing itself between Lyra and the rifles. "Hold your fire." But the soldiers didn't listen. Barrels glinted, fingers tightened on triggers. Captain Rourke stepped forward, his face twisted in fury. "Get out of the way, Daniel. You've been compromised. She's manipulating you. You've been seen with the enemy. Do you know what that means?" Daniel's heart pounded. He spread his arms wide, shielding Lyra. "She saved me. She warned me. Without her, I'd be dead. You don't understand. She's not the enemy. She's the reason I'm still standing." Rourke's eyes narrowed, his voice sharp as a blade. "You sound like a traitor, soldier. You think the brass will believe this story about tradition and fire? You think they'll forgive you for protecting her? No, they'll court-martial you, they'll bury you, and they'll burn her alive." The words cut deep. Daniel felt the weight of choice pressing again, heavier than the fire itself. His comrades staring, their eyes cold, their trust gone, their fingers ready to kill, and behind him Lyra's voice rose, soft but steady. "Do you see, Daniel? This is the moment, not the fire, not the hunters, this, standing between fear and hope." Her words carried like wind through the tense silence. The soldiers looked at her, their fear plain, their hatred sharp, yet something in her calm unsettled them. One soldier muttered under his breath, "She's just standing there." "She's not even armed," another hissed back. "Doesn't matter, they're all the same." Dangerous. Rourke raised his rifle higher, his voice like thunder. "Step aside, Daniel. Last warning." Daniel's hand shook, his throat dry. Every instinct screamed at him to obey, to survive. But the memory of the fire circle burned in his mind, the voice of the old ones echoing still. Mercy is harder, but only mercy can break fear. He could not run from it. He could not deny it. Slowly he lowered his arms, not in surrender but in defiance, his eyes locked with Rourke's. "No," he said, his voice low but steady. "I won't let you do this, not to her." The soldiers stiffened, mutters rose. Disbelief in their eyes, one whispered, "He's gone mad." Another spat. "He's with them now." Rourke's face twisted with rage, his finger tightening on the trigger. But before the shot could come, Lyra stepped forward, placing herself beside Daniel, her voice strong, clear, carrying across the circle. "I am not your enemy. I came to test him, to see if any human carried more than fear." And he did. He chose trust, he chose mercy, and that is strength. "Whether you see it or not," her words rang in the air. The soldiers faltered, some lowering their rifles slightly, doubt flickering in their eyes, but Rourke barked again. "Don't listen, she's twisting you." "She's twisting him." Daniel's chest burned. He knew the moment was slipping. The soldiers caught between orders and doubt, between hatred and hesitation, and he knew he had only one chance to make them stop, to break the chain before blood spilled on both sides. He raised his weapon from the ground, but instead of aiming at Rourke, instead of aiming at Lyra, he lifted it high, his arms steady, his barrel pointing into the sky. His finger pulled the trigger and the shot cracked loud, echoing through the forest, a blast not of death, but of defiance. The soldiers froze, their eyes wide, their ears ringing from the echo. Daniel lowered the weapon slowly, his voice carrying strong now. stronger than fear. If you fire, you'll start a war none of us can stop. If you fire, you'll prove the hunters right. You'll prove the fire wrong, and I won't be part of it. Silence fell, heavy, thick, every soldier staring unsure, their fingers trembling on their triggers. Lyra stood beside him, her silver eyes glowing bright, her voice soft but certain. Now they must choose too. Daniel, fear or trust, war or peace, and the whole world will turn on that choice. The fire circle flickered behind them. The forest held its breath, and Daniel knew the night was not ending. The night was only beginning, and every step from here would decide not just his fate, but the fate of both worlds. The shot still echoed through the forest, rolling like thunder. Daniel stood with his rifle lowered, smoke curling from the barrel, his body tense, his heart pounding. The soldiers frozen before him, their eyes wide, their fingers trembling on their triggers. Lyra stood at his side, her silver gaze unshaken, her voice quiet but firm. Now they must see. Now they must decide. Captain Rourke's face twisted with rage, his voice sharp. You've lost your mind, Daniel. You're pointing your gun at the sky while the enemy stands beside you. You've betrayed your oath. You've betrayed your brothers. Daniel's voice cut through the night. Steady, strong. No, I've kept my oath, the oath to protect, the oath to fight for what's right, not just to follow blind orders, not just to spill blood because someone told me to. I will not kill her. I will not kill Hope. The words hit the soldiers like a strike. Some shifted uneasily, their rifles lowering slightly, doubt spreading like fire through dry grass. Rourke barked again, desperate. Don't listen. He's bewitched, he's lost, she's an alien, they're all the same. Monsters in pretty masks, but one soldier muttered almost to himself. Then why hasn't she attacked us? Another whispered. She's unarmed. She could have killed him long ago if she wanted. Voices grew softer. Divided, the unit no longer won. No longer certain. Lyra stepped forward, her silver hair catching the faint glow of the fire circle, her voice calm, carrying in the silence. Your fear blinds you, but even fear can break. Daniel showed mercy. He spared when he could have killed, and that is strength greater than fire, greater than steel, greater than hate. If you cannot see it, then your war will never end. Daniel felt the weight of her words settle into the air, heavy but true, and for the first time he saw cracks in the hard shell of his comrade's eyes, hesitation, thought, something human breaking through the wall of orders. He seized it, pressing forward, his voice raw with conviction. Look at me. I walked through fire tonight. I faced the truth of what we've done, of what I've done, and I chose mercy, and I'm still standing stronger than before. If you fire on her now, if you fire on me, you're not killing enemies. You're killing the last chance this war has to end. Silence followed, so heavy it pressed against their skin. Rourke's jaw tightened, fury burning in his eyes, but his men were faltering, their rifles dipping lower, their breaths uneven, doubt spreading like cracks in stone. One soldier finally stepped back, lowering his weapon completely, his voice quiet. Sir, maybe he's right. Rourke spun on him, shouting, Stand down is treason. Do you want to die for them? For her? But another soldier lowered his weapon, then another, until more than half the unit stood uncertain, their rifles no longer aimed, their eyes locked on Daniel instead of their captain, the circle of fire behind him glowing faint. As if bearing witness, Rourke snarled, lifting his rifle, aiming at Daniel himself. Then I'll do it. I'll end this right here. The moment froze. Daniel's body tense, his finger brushing his trigger. Ready but unwilling, he had chosen mercy. He could not turn back, and before the shot came, Lyra stepped in front of him, her arms spread, her silver eyes bright. Then kill me, human. Kill me and show your men what you truly are. The words cut sharper than any blade. Rourke hesitated just for a heartbeat, and in that heartbeat his men moved. Two soldiers grabbed his rifle, ripping it away, shouting, Enough, sir! Enough! Rourke struggled, furious, but the weight of his men held him back, his fury lost in the forest silence. Daniel lowered his own weapon slowly, his breath heavy, his chest shaking. The trial was not the fire. It was this moment between hate and mercy, between war and peace, and for once peace had won, even if only by a thread. Lyra lowered her arms, her silver eyes meeting his, soft now, filled with something fragile, something rare. You chose, Daniel, and they followed. Mercy spreads like fire too, but it builds instead of burns. The soldiers stood uneasy, divided still but no longer ready to kill. Daniel stepped forward, his voice strong but tired. We can't keep doing this, burning villages, bearing our own, hunting them like beasts. This war has to change, and it starts here, with us. No one spoke for a long moment, then one soldier nodded. Another lowered his head, and slowly, the circle of men seemed to breathe again. No longer one mind, but many, no longer blind but questioning, and that was enough. The forest shifted, a wind passing through the silver trees. The fire circle behind them flickered once, twice, then dimmed to ash, as if the old ones themselves had watched and approved. Daniel felt the weight lift slightly from his shoulders, though the path ahead was still heavy, still endless. Lyra touched his arm, her voice quiet, meant only for him. This is not the end, Daniel. This is the first step. The hunters will return. My people will divide. Your leaders will call you traitor, but tonight the fire saw you, and the fire never forgets. Daniel looked up at the alien sky, the stars vast, endless, unfamiliar, and for the first time he felt not small, not lost, but part of something larger. Dangerous, fragile, but larger. He tightened his grip on his rifle not as a weapon, but as a reminder of the choice he had made behind him. The soldiers stood silent ahead. The forest stretched into shadow, and beside him Lyra stood tall, her silver eyes steady, her hand close to his, not touching, but near enough to promise that whatever came next, he would not face it alone. And in the silence of that alien night, Daniel realized a truth he could no longer deny. The war was far from over, but the story had already changed, because one alien girl slipped into his tent and one human chose not to kill, and the whole future now bent around that choice,